Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with this week's episode of the FNM Spotlight. This week I'm going to take my playing on a budget from last week that I played. I'll go ahead and link that in the description below where to go see the entire video series for this. But if you just check out GatheringMagic.com and then go back from last Friday, you'll see that there is a blue-white flash flyer deck that I played, and it was actually performed phenomenally well. And this is going to be a non-budget version of it, as I'm going to be able to include more Declaration of Stone as well as the Archangel Avacyn, which I think fits perfectly in a flash type build. So we're going to run 24 lands, 3 of them being Foundry the Consuls, because they are so good in this deck with the ability to sacrifice late game to give 1/1 flyers. I thought about Whirler Rogue in this deck at one point, but it just didn't quite seem to be fitting the curve. Like at 4 you want to be casting only a Thunderclap Wyvern. You don't want to be trying to put out like Whirler Rogue for just 2 more Thopters. At that point the Thunderclap is going to give the Anthem effect to the Faerie Miscreant, the Topplegeist, and the Rattlechains, and then you'll be swinging in for almost lethal, or at least tempo them out, and then keep up the control. So what's really good about this deck, and it's very undervalued in this format, is counterspells. Counterspells are extremely good. I'm surprised that there aren't a lot more control decks that are able to play them right now, because it's just it is a kind of an awkward matchup versus humans. But we have some answers definitely in our sideboard versus humans in the form of Horribly Awry and Reflector Mage. Both these cards just seem to do very well against the human matchups, because you can counter specific good cards that they need to hit, like the Thales Lieutenant, or just Reflector Mage back cards. It just screws up their entire curve. The Reflector Mage is a hard card to kind of push through, and Topplegeist and Faerie Miscreant can actually easily trade with like Kytheons and Expedition Envoys and things like that. Even if you have to use like a Rattlechains or a Dimensional Infiltrator to flash in to kill a creature, it's still worth it. So anyway, so our curve starts off with Topplegeist and Faerie Miscreant. Topplegeist has some tricks in it. You can flash it in with a Rattlechains to actually tap down a creature at the beginning of the attack phase, or you can Ojutai's command it in and tap down something, and also because its converted mana cost is definitely 2 or less. It also has synergy off the Bygone Bishop to get a clue. And I actually thought about making this more into a clue-based deck. Take out the Faerie Miscreants, put in the Throbbing Inspector, put in the Eldritch, the little Spirit 1/3 guy that you double clues, and then a Bygone Bishop route with that. But it just kind of seemed a little bit awkward, so I've decided to stick with kind of the Dimensional Infiltrator route. I don't think that you could have both Dimensional Infiltrator and the 1/3, and then it just gets quite awkward after that. So the Dimensional Infiltrator is just another 2/1 flash. The Foundry of the Consul does give us the ability to exile, or target opponent exiles the top card of their library, and then you can flicker or return back the Dimensional Infiltrator. That's gonna happen very, very, very seldom. That has happened before though, so don't discount that we do have ways to generate colorless mana in the deck. The Rattlechains is so good with giving hexproof to either a Topplegeist or a Bygone Bishop. Happens all the time in the deck, and it's just another 2/1 flasher. So ideally you're going to drop down a 1-drop to start the aggression. I think the Faerie Miscreant is the next best card, as if you get multiples you can actually draw a card. Now if Ojutai's command with the Faerie Miscreant in your graveyard and 1 on the battlefield, you can actually draw 2 cards off the Ojutai's command by putting the Faerie Miscreant in the battlefield and then triggering that off. So I actually like the Faerie Miscreant in this deck a lot. People have questioned it, but I think it is the best 1/1 flyer drop that you can put in the deck, in my opinion. So then we have the Bygone Bishop, which was a 4 of in the deck. I've cut it down to a 3 of. It does have a very good curve with the Rattlechains, because you can go Topplegeist, Rattlechains, Bygone Bishop. All will have flash now with Rattlechains, because it gives all spirit creatures flash as well. So then we can flash in a Bygone Bishop in end of turn and still hold up like the Stasis Snare, Void Shatter, Clash of Wills. And then if you don't, what's cool about flash, if anyone is unfamiliar with how a tempo flash deck works, is you're going to be end of turning Rattlechains, Dimensional Infiltrators, Archangel Avacyns, and Thunderclap Wyverns, rather than cast them on your own turn, and that allows you to keep up the Stasis Snares and the Clash of Wills and the Void Shatters. And then in the sideboard we have Negates and Horribly Awry that we can also uses added control. So instead of, so it just makes your opponent kind of hard to play around things. You have 2 mana open. A lot of times they don't want to run something out and do a Clash of Wills, and they'll just pass the turn, and that's when you get a free Rattlechains that they can't really react to. And then you have a 2/1 on the board that can then tempo them, you know, getting in for 2 damage, evasive damage per turn, and still keep up that counterspell mana, and then eventually flash in the Bygone Bishop or flash in the Thunderclap Wyvern or Archangel Avacyn. So, speaking of Archangel Avacyn, this is the latest edition. It's just a duck card in a flash deck. You can protect all of your creatures that have come out before. I don't want more than 2 because we're really trying to end the game or curve out with... I mean, the Thunderclap Wyvern, I think if you're going to go more Archangel Avacyns, you have to cut your Lord. And Thunderclap is by far one of the better cards in this deck because Rattlechains become Delvers. Faerie Miscreants become 2/2s. Multiple ones, you can actually flash one in at end of turn and then just cast one on your turn. And then all of your creatures get +2/+2. That's happened quite a bit. So Stasis Snare and Void Shatter Clash of Wills are preferred flash cards. Stasis Snare, of course, being something you can flash in. I've exiled so many Westvale Abbeys with Stasis Snare when they try to flip it and try to save themselves or get in for lethal. Declaration Stone still is the best control spell. I wish it was instant speed, but you could go into some sort of other card like Gideon's Reproach, or there's a 1-mana one that does 3 damage. There's also one that destroys a creature with power 2. There's also the destroy a red or black creature, but unfortunately all creatures in this format are not red or black. Every creature in the format is green or white. I'm just kidding, of course. There is a few red decks out there, but the majority of decks you're going to go up against, they're going to have red or white, or excuse me, white or green creatures. So a card like the, what is that even called? I can't even remember what the Surge of Righteousness is. I haven't even put it in the sideboard, as there's just not a lot of red decks running around at the moment, red or black creature-based decks. So we have the Ojutai's Command is just a one-of, just a lot of good little synergies. Sideboard of Vryn Wingmare is just insanely good against the green-white tokens, as well as it just throws them off their curve. When you go first turn a one-drop, second turn counter a spell with a Clash of Wills, or flash in a Rattlechains, and third turn you can just get the Vryn's Wingmare out, and then Languish takes till turn 5, which means you can Thunderclap Wyvern something, and then keep up the Languish counterspell mana, and then you just kill them. That's happened so many times with this deck. We have the Reflector Mage just for the humans matchup mainly. It just kills people's curve, and then if a temple-based deck, that's everything, is to mess up their curve, and then you'll be able to beat them down or even race them at that point. And this Stratus Dancer, Negate, and Horribly Awry, these come in, of course, versus creature-based decks. These come in versus non-creature-based decks and non-creature-based decks. So kind of our package against Languish is right here, and our package versus creature-based decks is right here. So that's what you're going to be bringing in versus the control. That's what you're going to be bringing in versus the creatures. Eerie Interlude is going to be great versus a number of decks that you can just exile your Faerie Miscreants and bring them back in, or all of these things are pretty good to hit with the Eerie Interlude just to protect them. The Negates can also come in, and the Stratus Dancer Negates will also come in versus Collected Company builds. And so, I mean, you're going to look like that with Collected Companies, and then take out cards that we don't need versus Collected Companies. That's when usually like the Faerie Miscreant will come out, and a few other cards that are just unnecessary. I think Bygone Bishop a lot of times will come out versus it. So I mean, you're bringing in versus Collected Company 1, 2. So there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, Faerie Miscreants, Bygone Bishops usually come out, and possibly a couple of Dimensional Infiltrators, and then you'll bring in this package. Bygone Bishop actually can stay in with Reflector Mage sometimes. Sometimes it's just even like the Topplegeist that I take out, and then we have kind of this disruption package versus the Collected Companies. Versus control, it's going to be the Vryn's Wingmare, Eerie Interlude, and well, it depends on what. If it's a language control, I bring in Eerie Interlude. If not, it might not come in. But Negate, Stratus Dancers, Vryn Wingmare's in. Out usually is like Declaration of Stones and Stasis Snares, and then a few of other these creatures like the Faerie Miscreants are actually pretty good in this one. I think Topplegeist come down in a few counts for the control base matchups. So anyway, that's just kind of the gist of the deck. I'll again link all the descriptions in the description below, as well as the deck list. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com with an FNM primer. Thanks for watching. For last week's episode of the FNM Spotlight, please check out the link here for the Blazing Abominations Aristocrats deck. And, as always, be sure to check out the Rogue Deck Builder store for all your Rogue Deck Builder gear needs. Thanks for watching, and please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.